2002SuperVision presents Digital Nitrate, a video podcast. Hey, Joel.
Halloween.
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 Technically
Halloween.
Halloween.
How'd you like to be fucked?
Halloween.
Frankenstein?
Halloween.
Halloween night.
Halloween. John Carpenter's classic. Michael escapes from jail, kills people. The score's pretty iconic. And the score sounds like the Exorcist score, really. Which also sounds like that one track from Death Note.
Now you're showing an interest in the Kira case.
If I was in a room with Halloween, The Exorcist, and Death Note, I would shoot Death Note twice. So Chandler, Halloween, one of the most classic movies of all time.
Well, what do I think of it?
No.
Okay. Joel, you know I'm not really a horror guy, right? You know that I'm kind of a stick in the mud.
A square, yeah.
But I gotta say, I really loved this movie right here.
It's a classic for a reason.
Totally.
Where it captures the vibe of the season.
Yeah, not just of the season, but also the sort of fears of the time, the fears of today even, you know.
Well, it's 78, which is sort of just after the peak of serial killers. And I think the story goes, John Carpenter is asked to make a film about a serial killer that kills babysitters. And I think it was always meant to be set on Halloween. So why not just call it Halloween? And then, John Carpenter did a bit of his John Carpenter thing and just ended up making a very good movie that changed the landscape of horror forever, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, just fuck around and accidentally make one of the most important films of the 20th century. It happens.
Well, it's like it kind of had to be him, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, who else would really be able to capture it in such a way? You obviously have the big horror creators of the time, like Romero and stuff like that, but
I don't think any of them were capable of doing slashers, though.
Right, yeah.
Romero or Tobe Hooper, who did Texas Chainsaw, but that just did not push anything forward.
No, that was just a slasher. This is a slasher with some bite to it, with something to say, while still being a competent and exciting horror slasher. Definitely.
They needed a young man to step in. The young man that is John Carpenter, who's looked like he's an elderly man for most of his life, but
yeah, physically he was at least young here, and that's all that matters.
I mean, we could just start right at the beginning, because that intro sequence is very iconic for the film.
Yeah, talk about pushing the boundaries. I don't think that a slasher, Halloween, any horror film needs to, go as hard as this, but Carpenter and his DP said, fuck it, we're going hard right off the bat. A one-shot POV of Michael killing his sister.
I think they shot 4 different one-shot takes, but in the final film they edited together maybe a couple of takes, and this is before Birdman. This is back when it was a lot more impressive to sort of cobble together one takes. One of the first films to use Panaglide, which is the Steadicam equivalent for Panavision.
Interesting factoid.
I don't think it was the first. I think the first was a Terrence Malick film. I don't remember the name, and you can tell it's Panaglide. It looks very floaty, the camera, which is even more sinister. You can see its shadow on the wall sometimes.
that's forget about that. Yeah, right off the bat, this film really distinguishes itself from other horrors with its, sort of care with cinematography and how it looks. It's still a low budget-ish film. I believe at the time it got, was it $3 million? Which, still, it's nothing compared to like the super B movies that we're making in the time where their budget is like $500 and a couple cartons of cigarettes. But, in the days of big Hollywood, that's small money for a studio production.
I think it's considered an independent film. I'm not too sure.
Oh, that is true. Yeah, it is technically independent, isn't it?
Which is wacky what they used to be able to do with independent horror back in the day. Nowadays, independent horror is kind of a dirty word for me.
It's pretty dirty, isn't it? It gives a totally different idea than if you were thinking of Halloween. Like, they don't seem like they would mean the same thing.
I guess if we're just following the plot along, now would be a good time to talk about the TV version. Because all the major differences come in sort of just after the beginning. Have you seen the TV version?
I did actually check out the scenes that were added. I didn't watch the whole thing, obviously, but yes, I've seen the additional footage for the TV version.
I've never seen them like in context for the film. I don't know where they slot in exactly, but I've seen the scenes as well. Yeah, you can tell that they're shot around the time they shot Halloween 2. Yeah, they start introducing a bunch of bullshit. They start introducing like the sister subplot. His written sister on his door, which I'm entirely of the belief that they should have just not included that in Halloween at all.
Yeah, I think that we'll loop back around to, trying to make the Halloween series too lore heavy and, edgy like that.
That's what's so perfect about Halloween, is that it's not lore heavy at all. It's such a simple film of like, this guy, He's got no emotions and he's walking around killing people. And that's what's scary about it. You don't want to know too much about your horror villain or else he gets boring. I'm talking to you, James Wan.
Yeah, it's definitely a case where it's scarier because you know less. But that also doesn't mean that this film loses any of its deeper plot points, deeper themes. It's just not painting them so egregiously in front of you as other horror films might have done.
You think this is a particularly autumnal movie?
It had some autumnal vibes. It wasn't.
You can say no. You're allowed to say no.
I'd say like it could have been a bit more autumnal. Truth be told,
it's clearly like shot in the springtime in South Los Angeles.
Yeah, they could have used a bit more fake foliage, Yeah,
you look at the streets and there's just sort of like a few leaves scattered around in the foreground. You look down the street and nothing. No leaves at all. All the trees are bright green. What was the leaf budget?
I mean, $3 million doesn't leave you a lot of room.
Doesn't leave you a lot of room.
Oh.
What are you gonna wear to the dance tomorrow night? I didn't know you thought about things like that, Lori.
Other than the fact that it gets dark very early in the film, not very autumnal at all, truth be told.
It's all like daytime, and you get maybe one shot when they're in the car and it's kind of sunset, and then it's instantly nighttime. Apparently that's the only reason they added that one scene where they're in the car at sunset, is so that it wasn't just an instant cut to nighttime.
That's fair, but I also want to maybe use that shot there to tie into a note here that I have about sort of the strange but very exciting, what's the word here, sort of celebration of simplicity and normal things in this film that I noticed. As in, like, there are some very beautiful shots of just very casual things, like that scene where they're driving and the way it's shot from the back seat and the glare coming in through the front window. I noticed that with just a lot of scenes which are pretty non-consequential and probably would have been shot very, quick and simple for the sake of getting them, done with.
Yeah.
There's a lot more care taken in even those smallest scenes, which I think is a very endearing part of this film. What really endears this film to me.
It's very like intimate, I guess, the cinematography. You stay very close to Laurie whenever she's on screen, which is what works so well to build up the fear of Michael Myers, because obviously if Laurie sees him in the distance, you're also seeing him in the distance. There's never a close-up of him. It keeps the like mysterious aspect of him if you keep him away from the camera, away from the audience as well.
Totally. Very, very tried and true, you know, visual storytelling here. And that personal shooting range, you know, very close to Laurie and all of the characters.
We're not speaking about shooting ranges until 2018, so...
Laurie does get to the shooting range, yes. Yeah, that personal space, you know, gives you that personal connection, gives you that invasion of space when, you know, Jason does get closer, gets in those spaces.
I'm gonna leave in Jason just to embarrass you.
Thank you. I call him Jason all the time because, once again, I don't like or watch horror films. So all of those, like, 60s through 80s horror villains are all Jason.
So just Jason to me.
Seriously.
No matter how iconic you make your villain, it's just Jason.
Sorry. I know you put a lot of effort into Freddy and Jason Voorhees and all that, but fuck you.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
We have two villains in the film, though, and the second villain is John Carpenter smoking cigarettes just behind the camera.
Yeah, talk about invading the space. My man can seriously needs to take just wait 4 minutes, maybe even just 4 minutes to get the shot and then go take a smoke break.
I have like no idea how that made it into the final cut, but like every time I see it, I just lose it. It's so John Carpenter to be smoking cigarettes right behind the rolling camera.
I think the reason why it's left in is because of that $3 million budget. They were like,
one take per scene.
This is some real Ed Wood shit going on here.
Did you know they moved the house? The Michael Myers house?
The real house?
Yeah, the actual house. It's still intact, but I don't remember every detail of the story, but the street that it was on, every house was being demolished to make way for something. And someone bought the Myers house, not even because it was in Halloween, they bought it for its actual real life historical value because it was a very old house. But the city told him, or you can have the house, but you're gonna have to move it because we're demolishing everything on this strip. So the entire house was uprooted and moved just down the road a little bit. I think it's next to you remember the store that Dr. Loomis is outside? Or not Loomis, it was the hardware store that the sheriff was outside. It's just next to there now. The guy who moved it put it on a lot of land that he didn't even own. He just put it there and then went out to try and buy that piece of land. I
mean, that's a great bargaining chip for getting that land. It's like, well,
sell me the land. My house is here.
I did put the house there, so... And
you see it on the street now, and it's like a weird, like, off angle, because they didn't put it down straight.
So. They just dropped it. the truck backed up and just, slid it down. And like, there you go.
You're on your own now. We're going. You're not paying us enough to straighten the house.
There are actually a number of houses in my town that have been moved from other places, historical buildings. It is beautiful. They just come in and they literally just chop it off of the foundation, lift it up, and put it on a truck. It's almost scary to bring this back around to the horror concept of somebody just being able to come to your house and chop it off the foundation and steal it and just put it on a truck and leave.
The house is like the safe place in a horror film, but a horror villain that could just come and take your entire house. Like, you have no safe places to hide anymore.
Found the car. He's here. Where? He's 3 blocks down. You go around the back of the houses. I'll watch the front.
Can we talk about how much Loomis sucks? He's like an awful person.
You say that Loomis sucks, but in this rendition, he's just like a normal guy. I'm sorry.
He's an awful person. All he does is go around and tell everyone how evil his patient is. If my therapist did that, I'd kill myself.
Okay, so yes, he is not the best therapist. In the opening scene, he calls Michael Myers it.
Don't underestimate it.
You know, like he is not a human being.
He just calls him pure evil constantly.
Yeah. So like, I get that. And the film is always playing with this fact that, you know, not even the psychiatric world is taking threats to society, threats to human mental illness seriously. But compared to other Loomises that we will speak of today, I mean, he's really just an idiot. I wouldn't call him a bad person. I would just say that he's really dumb.
He just spends the whole film like wandering around, not doing anything, telling anyone he can find that Michael Myers is the most evil person alive.
He's kind of the insane one. He's kind of the raving lunatic character running around and yelling at strangers. Totally.
He's harassing children, whispering it to them from the bush.
Yeah, he called those what do you call those kids? Like, get away from there, you.
He said, get your ass away from there.
He's swearing at kids.
He's just like a complete asshole. He just wanders around the town, does more damage than Michael, and Michael killed like 4 people. So
wow, you really, I'm sorry, I don't quite share your Loomis sentiment here.
I think he's a dick. Michael Myers driving is funny every time.
You don't expect your horror villain to be able to drive.
Nah, well, if you saw like Jason driving, you'd be shocked. Like, why is he driving?
Yeah.
And Michael's kind of in the same boat where he was institutionalized as a child, and apparently they're teaching driver's ed at the psychiatric hospital.
It's one of the vocational skills that they teach, I guess.
He's pretty good at driving.
He makes like 100 miles distance in a night. Like he's fast. He is speeding.
I mean, it's like American cars do just operate like huge go-karts, so I'm not too surprised. Unless he was driving stick, in which case, wow.
He's driving like a wagon too, so it had like super sloppy steering, and I'm surprised he didn't have to stop for fuel though. I mean, back then those things just ate up fuel. So
all the lead in the gasoline.
That's probably what made him crazy. That's probably what made him kill all those people was lead in lead in the gasoline.
So much time standing outside of his house, everyone who drove past just blasting fumes into his face.
What do you think of, as a slasher fan, as a horror fan, what do you think of the act of killing in this film? You know, the gore and the kills, the body count. Well,
there isn't really much gore, to be honest. There's like just a bit of blood thrown around. This was before Tom Savini really took off, and Tom Savini just changed the entire landscape for gore in horror films. But, I mean, the kills are effective, iconically so. None of them really make that much sense, but they're memorable.
They're very exciting and definitely pay off, because this film is like 80% build up. So when he starts killing, it's very, very it's a good payoff. How one kitchen knife is able to support the weight of a grown man
on like a pantry door as well.
Yeah,
not even a sturdy wall.
Pantry door. Like that's a little bit of creative liberty, but one that is plenty welcome here.
Well, it's all for the shot. You know, it's not all about logic. It's what looks good. Put that in. That's what's memorable. That's how you make a memorable scene.
Yeah, and that's what's horrifying, is something that sort of edges off of reality.
So Chandler, Halloween, is it good? Is it bad?
It is a good film, Joel. Coming from me, somebody who doesn't like horror, and if you are somebody who doesn't like horror either, let me say that I think that you definitely might enjoy this film. It has a little bit of something for everybody. It has the horror slasher aspect. It has the comedy and drama aspects, and it has some pretty deep themes, which is surprising coming from a film which should, by all means, just be a mindless booby slasher film. But overall, it's pretty damn good. Joel, what did you think?
It's a good film. It's Halloween. It's a classic of horror. What else is there to say? Who hasn't seen Halloween? Now, I know people who haven't seen Halloween. You know who you are.
And you're bastards.
You really are bastards. Watch Halloween. It's literally Halloween. So
yeah, it's a classic. We talk a lot about a lot of obscure films here, so we're gonna take this opportunity to have a not obscure film here, so we can just say, fuck it. It's classic.
Yeah. And we're gonna follow this up with 2 obscure films called Halloween and Halloween.
Go away.
Rob Zombie.
From the sick and twisted mind of Rob Zombie comes the seasonal remake of the year, The Monsters, starring Herman Munster, Mrs. Munster, Grandpa what's the mom's name in The Monsters? It's Halloween! But this time we spend 40 minutes with Michael as a child, building up a delicate story of a child failed by his family and the state psychiatric care. And then he breaks out of hospital and remakes Halloween scene for scene. Is it a good idea for a spooky Halloween horror movie to spend half its runtime making you feel sorry for the killer? Probably not. So Chandler, Halloween again.
Again.
Again? This time it's made by Rob Zombie.
Oh, it's made by Rob Zombie. Going straight into that point of the literally like half of the film being Michael Myers' backstory.
It's an interesting concept.
Yes.
Especially from Rob Zombie. Who would have thought him to be such a delicate being?
I would not call what he did with the story delicate, is all. And that's really the problem, is that so much of it is just, it feels like such bad faith. It feels like he's like, is he trying to make me sympathize with Michael? Because I don't get that from this. Is he just trying to be like an absolute like evil person, you know, stretching out Michael's suffering for our enjoyment? I don't know. I
think he wants to explore Michael's inhumanity, which is an interesting concept if the whole film was about that, but it isn't all about that.
Right.
Because 50% of it is almost literally just a scene-for-scene Halloween remake.
Just complete shot for shot, exactly like you said. But you look at the intro to the original, and it does, you know, it has the same effect as Rob Zombie's intro in the span of 5 minutes. You know everything you need to know. You know that Michael Myers is an unfortunate, disturbed soul who kills his sister, and that's it.
But this time he also kills Junie from Spy Kids.
How dare he? But yeah, I mean, it really is just, it doesn't do anything new with that idea. You know, making this backstory, it literally just keeps beating down the fact that, oh, Michael Myers is a sociopath. He has no emotions. He has no feelings. He has no empathy or no knowledge of right from wrong. And it's like, again, we got that from the first 5 minutes of the original. I don't need to see that, because really it just feels gross, you know, seeing all of that played out.
I get what you mean. I like Rob Zombie though. Rob Zombie's like the closest thing I have to a guilty pleasure, where it's like I can see all the badness in his films, but I enjoy them nonetheless. It's fun. Surprisingly so, considering how much it wants to be such a like serious look at Michael Myers' mental health.
Yeah, fun is a word for it again. I feel like that really goes against what he's trying to do with trying to get us to sympathize with Michael. It doesn't, you know, it either takes itself too seriously or not seriously enough, and I'm often left, you know, just feeling gross. I felt gross the entire time, truth be told.
And it's got this like disgusting vibe over all of it, because it's a very gruesome film. There's a lot of like genuinely emotionally effective kills in. I think of like Danny Trejo. He's very upset that he treated Michael so well and he's being killed anyway. And that's supposed to cement the point that Michael has just completely lost all of his humanity. He's irredeemable at this point. He's the serial killer you all know and love, and you want to see him recreate Halloween.
Yeah, the Danny kill really was... I think that was one of the best, in a sense of building towards the story, building towards Michael's character. God, that was... He's definitely the right choice for a director when it comes to like making a Halloween remake, but this certain instance and him making it this way just it is a bit of a dud for me, to tell you the truth. And I know some people like super gruesome deaths. I know that this is a slasher, that's the whole point of this whole thing, but I mean, it's not my thing.
I think like the 2018 one, which we'll get to, the 2018 one is way more brutal than the original, but it doesn't feel too out of place for Michael Myers to be capable of brutal things, compared to like the Scream remake, which came out at the beginning of this year, where the kills are sort of equally brutal, but it makes no sense for the character of Ghostface at all, because he's supposed to be essentially the horror villain equivalent of a twink. Like he's not supposed to be doing these like massive, gruesome, horrific murders. He's a stab and leave kind of guy.
Yeah, so when I did get that gore, I got all that brutalness, it just sort of felt very mean-spirited to me, instead of, you know, working towards Michael Myers, working towards Halloween as a series, as a concept.
Well, that's the problem with making half of your film a sympathetic portrayal of Michael, is that when he starts doing horrific things, you want to sympathize with him still, but you can't, because he's like drowning people and smashing heads in.
Yeah, it really just...
killing dogs.
It really doesn't know where it wants to be and what it wants to do. Just that it is just a time capsule of sort of that Rob Zombie style of the early 2000s, where it was just sort of an overall generalized style of suffering and gore and sadness. You know, looking at the Laurie Strode that we get in this film, you know,
in Halloween,
as opposed to Laurie Strode in Halloween. You know, she is this, I don't know, would you call it goth?
She's definitely a lot more goth than the second one.
Yeah, she becomes way more gothy. But this is sort of just like that, you know, 2007's like Hot Topic, Urban Outfitter, Vans aesthetic.
Little bit of a punk chick vibe.
Yeah, like a Avril Lavigne sort of thing. Where it is sort of just like, which I always thought it's just this very gross commodification of mental illness and suffering. So, again, that's also why the gore doesn't really settle well with me. That's why I don't think Rob Zombie being the person trying to create the sympathetic image of Michael feels good to me. Because, again, it just feels like it's this feeling of, you know, it feels like he just likes doing it because he likes seeing the suffering.
It's a big step up from, like, earlier Rob Zombie, though. Like, House of a Thousand Corpses. There's essentially no characters in that film. I love that film, but not for noble reasons. I love it because it is purely just a family of psychopaths killing 4 people. Have fun. Have fun, everyone. And in Halloween, he tries to do more with like characters and character motivations. It's up to you whether you think it works or not. I think it's alright. I think it's fine. I think it kind of works, but I can see all the flaws. All of them.
I'm sorry if I don't sound too concerned, but a dead coyote and a missing headstone doesn't prove anything.
I do want to take a quick side trip into Zombies Halloween 2.
We can.
Because I want to really quickly say that I actually like that a lot more than this one, because at least the cut we watched, the director's cut, made it a lot more experimental. I think that it did more to visually encompass sort of the mental state that was trying to be created in the first one. It made it more visually interesting and appealing in this one with the inclusion of like the white horse thing. And
it's kind of a bit like meandering though.
It is.
Which for a Halloween film really like does not hit the mark at all.
Yeah.
I mean, how long does it take for Michael to get anywhere? You have that opening scene, which is sort of to tide you over, but it's a dream sequence, so...
Right, it doesn't even count. Yeah, I do want to specify that it's not a good film, but it's better than the first one.
I think that both of them are, like, fine movies. I enjoy them both, but Rob Zombie definitely, like, incrementally improved over his career.
I mean, The Munsters was a fucking masterpiece, so...
Speaking of establishments, I'm thinking of opening up a restaurant. I'm gonna call it Karma. There's no menu. You just get what you deserve.
Oh yeah, we should have been talking about The Munsters really, but it's Halloween. You can't pass up on the opportunity to have 3 movies called Halloween in one video. And Halloween Ends is coming out. That's why we're doing this.
Yep.
We'll talk more about Halloween Ends in the next one, though. There's a few fun cameos in Halloween. A lot of Rob Zombie regulars. There's whatever the fuck his name is. Jeff something something. The one that plays Herman Munster. He gives maybe the best line delivery in the film when he's the one that's like beat to death outside the strip club at the dumpster. When he turns around and he is trying to act tough, but you can genuinely hear like fear in his voice. I think it's a shockingly good performance.
What the fuck you doing, man? Sneaking around back here.
That guy's good. Sorry I don't remember his name, but it's like Jeff Daniel Phillips. Yeah.
There you go.
It was in my subconscious somewhere. And we have Ken Foray from Dawn of the Dead and also other Rob Zombie horror films that we don't talk about.
Brad Dourif.
Brad Dourif. We've been rewatching Chucky, the Child's Play franchise recently. And that Brad Dourif, he's great. I love him.
I think I made nowhere short of at least 3 Chucky jokes during our watching of Halloween 2.
I mean, it's Brad Dourif, you have to. It's that or it's Exorcist 3 jokes, so...
Pick your poison.
So Chandler, that's Halloween again. Is it on the same level as Halloween, or is it not as good as Halloween?
You know what, Joel? It is not as good as Halloween.
That's a really bad metric though, because I'm also gonna have to say it's not as good as Halloween, but I still think it's a good film.
You did that to yourself there. But
yeah.
On the positive to negative scale, this is negative by far. It doesn't do anything that it sets out to do. It doesn't make me feel sympathetic for Michael, nor does it make me, enjoy any of these slasher parts near the end. It doesn't feel like a Halloween movie. It doesn't feel like the original in theme or scope. And really, I just think that it's a gross cash in on suffering. Not to sound too much like Roger Ebert here.
Doesn't matter if you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or you've got plans for the future, you can forget those plans because you're going to wind up dead.
If you like this film, you like stabbing. That's all you've done.
Yeah. Joel, where are you on the as good or not as good as Halloween scale?
They put more leaves in it this time. That's my compliment. They put leaves on the floor.
Yeah, okay, I'll give it that. More autumnal. Good job, you made it look like Halloween.
It's not as good as Halloween, but, did it need to be? Kind of.
Being a namesake remake, I think it should at least have been on the same level.
I think I give Rob Zombie another few years, let him remake it again. He might do better. Every decade, we'll just give him Halloween again, see what he does this time.
Yeah, let's give him a shot. Let's give him another shot.
Everyone in my family turns into a nutcase this time of year.
Jamie Lee Curtis reprises her role as Laurie Strode in this not a remake but still titled the same as the original sequel to John Carpenter's Halloween. I guess her checks for Activia started to dry out because I know Blumhouse was not paying her in large bills, but you gotta make your Fuck!
What the hell did you do that for?
But you gotta make your mortgage payments somehow. In case it's not obvious by now, this film sees Michael Myers escaping from prison during a transfer. I think the rest tells itself. But I do want to note that this film does have a powerful social message, which is kill all podcasters. So Joel, my podcast co-host, what did you think about Halloween?
Sorry, I'm being killed right now.
Hell yeah.
I'm in the I don't know if it's a rare camp anymore, but I'm in the camp of, yeah, it was good. Yeah, they just remade Halloween again, and I like Halloween, so why not?
Yeah, there's not a big inflammatory statement that it's good, but also it's not bad. It's a film.
It's a competent spooky Halloween movie that I saw in the cinema, and I went, yeah, I had a fun time on this spooky October night, so that makes it a good film.
You did it, Gordon Levitt Green.
Gordon Joseph Levitt Green, whatever his name is.
You know, as long as I get most of the names right, it counts. This film does definitely lean on its predecessor. You know, its themes are still present, but it doesn't really do anything to expand them. It doesn't really do anything to make you go, ooh, this is an exciting take on Halloween. No, it just makes you go, yeah, that's Halloween. That's what it says on the tin.
They just did it again.
And that's okay, especially after Zombies' interesting take. It's a bit more refreshing.
Or maybe that's why they went right back to basics, because Zombies was a bit of a spiral. It made its money back. Horrors always do.
Yeah, especially because it was a remake of a classic horror back in a time when that was novel, and that made people excited and not cynical like today.
But I think studios saw Halloween 2 and went, oh god, what's Rob Zombie doing? What is this?
We gotta cut this line now.
And so they give it a solid decade, and let's bring in David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, noted comedy writers. They'll make a good horror. And you know what they kind of did?
Yeah. And it had its moments which were as scary as the original. It had its moments which were as tense.
Say goodbye to Michael and get over it. Goodbye.
What did you think of where it took Jamie Lee Curtis's character, Laurie Strode, and her family?
And giving Laurie Strode like a victim trauma kind of makes sense. It's something for her to do at least. I do hate what it's become. I think Halloween set off this chain reaction of legacy characters coming back and doing this whole action movie, I'm back to defeat the bad guy kind of thing. Even when it doesn't really make much sense. I think like the Texas Chainsaw remake that came out earlier this year again, and they brought back Sally Hardesty from the first film in the same sort of Laurie Strode role, and it makes little to no sense for that character to be coming back still.
Yeah, I think that it does take it a bit to an extreme, a bit sort of almost satirical at a point, the levels of paranoid she is of Michael. And I think it's made even worse by just how uncaring the town is of her pleas.
Yeah.
You know, she becomes that original Loomis character where she is the screaming paranoid person, and everybody's just like, okay, you're being silly now.
Which like for Halloween 2018, it's an idea that everyone has moved on and it's just Laurie holding on to this trauma. And thematically throughout the film, they do kind of have this vibe of, you know, Michael Myers isn't special. He's not doing these things for a supernatural reason. He's not coming after Laurie specifically. It's just happening, and Laurie's trauma is sort of latching her to Michael rather than the other way round. Of course, then all of that is completely abandoned for Halloween Kills because they forgot how to write in between films.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if they like accidentally turned off their like spell check when they were writing the script for Halloween Kills, but they just really messed that up in the biggest way possible.
Lori!
He killed Marion.
Getting rid of things before they turn bad is important.
Do you want to talk about Halloween Kills already?
Let's get it out of the way.
If we're talking about Halloween Kills, I'm gonna need this.
Oh god, evil dies tonight, boy.
Evil dies tonight!
It's been 40 years.
40 years ago!
And evil dies tonight.
Love lives today.
But evil dies tonight.
I fucking hate this film. Oh, it's just so tone deaf and like Halloween 2018 had like a shred of dignity, and with Halloween Kills they're just like, let's just make this as heavy-handed but also, you know, as bullheaded as we possibly can.
It's the cinematic equivalent of shitting your pants. And honestly, I can only imagine Halloween Ends is gonna be the cleanup, because there's no way you can just skip over that mess.
Yeah, I feel like Halloween Ends is gonna be like a big retcon. They're gonna be like, we're just kind of gonna sweep Halloween Kills under the rug and hopefully put a better spin on the end of this. I feel like they kind of knew they had to make a trilogy of this, but only had like 2 stories worth of ideas. So it's like Halloween Kills is them just, you know, scraping the bottom.
It's on the same night, and Michael's back again, and he survived, and he's...
And I have a note here that's scribbled on the back of a napkin that says cancel culture. Can we run with that? Can we do something with that?
That's my little pet theory. Is there's the hospital scene, the infamously bad hospital scene, with the angry mob chasing this poor man and driving him to suicide. It seems like a very thinly veiled metaphor for cancel culture, which frankly is an embarrassing thing to put in your spooky Halloween movie, but
in the year 2021, no less.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been written in 2018, but I don't forgive it still.
No, it's still too late to be making such watery statements on such topics.
They got 2018 right. They said people are gonna go to the cinema, they want to watch a Halloween film. Michael escapes, he kills people, he's done. Simple film. And then for some reason when they were writing Halloween Kills, they just threw all of that out the window and put in as much bullshit as they could. Put in the angry mob storyline that doesn't even really have a conclusion. It wants to say that violent vigilante mobs are a bad thing, but then also they're sometimes good if they kill the correct people, which is an extreme point to have.
Yeah, and like I don't want this to sound like probably every other horror podcast which has talked about it, which hates social justice and actual like you know, good uses of such things, but this really just is not the film to do it.
No, not Halloween Kills.
Yeah, it really, if this film slashed anything, it was its ability to have a proper social justice message. It flubbed it up. That's it. That's my review of Halloween Kills.
Just a large unbroken sigh of a movie. A waste of time, a waste of everyone's time. So I'm so excited to see Halloween Ends.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, it has a very low bar to clear. It just has to get over Halloween Kills, which is sort of like stepping over Roadkill. And, you know, we'll see if it succeeds or trips up.
I reckon it's gonna be like Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, where like the first one was fine. It wasn't very creative, but it didn't need to be. And the second one's kind of just like fumbling to find something fun that it can add. And whilst commendable, it does kind of just make for a messy film. And then I feel like Halloween Ends is going to be an overcorrection where they just kind of like butcher every single plot aspect and overall end the series on just a wet fart. But 2018's fine. It's a fine movie.
Rolling it back, Halloween, definitely much better in comparison now that we've talked about Kills.
Just needed to vent about Kills. What a mess.
Yeah, that's really what this was for, just so we could complain about that. Yeah, I have to say that I am, you know, pretty impressed with how Halloween did maintain the themes from the first one, the suburb, the law and secular world, uncaring about social woes, about the the needs of people with mental illness and so on and so forth. It doesn't do anything to really expand on that to make it as interesting as the first one. But I normally, when films do that in remakes, sequels, or anything like that, they tend to just kind of water them down or not give them as much attention. This one, I think, really maintains at least a similar level.
It tries its best.
Yeah.
And that's all I can ask of it, is that it try its best. And it's an entertaining film. No, I've got nothing on that.
Laurie Strode, meet Dr. Sertain.
I'm Michael's doctor, Ranbir Sartain.
The same goes for things in your digestive system.
Unfortunately, no Loomis in the remake Halloween.
Well, we get Laurie. We get Laurie as the Loomis.
Yeah, she does kind of become the Loomis character, like I said.
She says the line to, what's his name, Dr. Sartain, something like that. She says to him, "Oh, so you're the new Loomis," which is very funny because it's like, no, you're the new Loomis, Laurie. I'm sorry to say
Laurie.
that. You're the scumbag asshole now.
Yeah. We did get like a weird like dollar store Loomis in Halloween Kills during that flashback, which was hilarious. I have no idea who that was, but it was fun to see.
I think he's like one of the on-set carpenters that kind of looked like Donald Pleasance. They put him in prosthetic makeup. It's not CGI for once, which is rare. They put him in actual prosthetic makeup and got a dub to voice over him.
Yeah, it did definitely look convincing.
I might have rather they just got someone else, like Malcolm McDowell. Bring him back, fuck it. Have that weird connection. Bring back, like, complete scumbag Dr. Loomis, Malcolm McDowell.
We did totally forget to talk about that Loomis from 2007.
All the things I have to say about him, he's somehow worse than the original Dr. Loomis.
He's an active asshole in Rob Zombie's rendition. You know, he's exploiting Michael for his gain.
Which is so funny that in Halloween 2007, he writes his book, and that's a big plot point, is his book that is profiteering off of Michael. And then you get to Halloween 2 and he does it again.
Does not learn his lesson. Yeah, he goes on a fucking tour, university tour. He does not give a shit. He is, I think it may be one of the better points of the zombie ones, which is showing how equally unempathetic the quote unquote normal world is. You know, Loomis, who is supposed to be the professional, educated psychologist, is just as uncaring, unknowing of what's good and bad as somebody like Michael Myers, you know.
And he spends the whole of Halloween 2 just sat in his hotel room. Uncaring, doesn't care about the plot of the film either. He's just chilling.
He's just there, man. What can I say?
But yeah, Halloween 2018. It's alright. That's the biggest like commemoration it's gonna get, is what a competent film it was. So
Joel, would you give Halloween 2018 a knives up or a knives down?
It's knives up, I guess. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's ironic that we brought up the Star Wars sequel trilogy because Rian Johnson made Knives Out. But it's fine. There's really not much to say about the new Halloween. It's like, if you've seen the original Halloween enough times, yeah, watch it. It's fun. If you haven't seen the original Halloween, just watch that one. Don't watch Halloween Kills. Not even if you have Peacock, not even if it's free, don't bother.
Yeah, I have to agree, you know, probably not the most pressing, important cinema to get on your screen right away. But, you know, if you're a fan of the series, definitely give it a watch. Otherwise, good on Mr. Blum for getting that legacy IP money.
Good on Mr. Blum for producing a good film. It's rare, but it happens sometimes.
We've got Get Out and
Whiplash. He produced Whiplash. Did you
know that? He produced Whiplash? What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
That was a Blumhouse movie.
Fuck. That is the scariest thing I've heard today.
Should have got J.K. Simmons to play Michael.
Ooh. Now we're thinking. Joel, I'm kind of hungry. Is there anything to eat in this basement?
Dog.
There's that dead dog over there. Let me check out the fridge here. There's another dead dog on the bottom shelf, but what's this Activia here? Did you put this here?
Nah. I think that was Jamie.
Yeah, there's like a sticky note on here that says, "Warning, this is strictly for Jamie Lee Curtis."
Hey, just take one. There's so many.
Yeah,
What's
like
the worst that could happen?
There's like 18 yogurts here. I could have one. Yeah, let me just crack this open. And, oh,
Jamie! Your body does
Jamie, no, it's not like